brain, Sheeran. And we have a very special show today. Not only are we previewing the Bengals season, what I'm calling the season preview, but we have the greatest Bengals personality, analyst, a smartest Bengal fan. No one knows how he became a Bengals fan, why he became, but we're very fortunate that he did. He has a strong presence on Twitter. Of course, he is in semi-retirement, but he honored us by coming back for this show. I'm talking about the great Joe Goodberry. And Joe, of course, is going to talk to us about all the fun stuff that's been happening around the team recently, all the moves, all the showings in the preseason.
Well, if I may, the reason I'm excited to have Joe is because he can also tell us about the not fun stuff. This is a man who tells it as it is, who calls a spade, or whatever. And we need more of that on that show. There's been a little bit too much what I call who-dayism on this show.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. But there's a lot of fun news that's been coming out just today. I mean, first of all, the Bengals, they bought some tigers. I don't know if you saw the plastic tigers.
Yeah, you can't buy animals.
No, they put plastic Bengal tigers by the tunnel when the players enter. And I mean, they really went crazy. I think those must have cost anywhere from $50 to $75. And I don't know where they're getting this kind of money, but it's just so much. I love that they're investing in the team. They moved on from Billy Price just today. They traded him for BJ Hill, the defensive lineman. We're going to talk to Joe about that. And the last bit of news I want to bring up is that Mike Brown is stepped down. That's right. Mike Brown has stepped down as for some committee. I don't know what it is, but I just wanted to get your attention by saying he stepped down. Okay.
Wait, from what?
John, what is it exactly?
Did he step down from a stair?
No.
Mike Brown Stepped Down was the name of like my fantasy team from like 10 years ago when I was a little kid. But he stepped down from the owners committee that negotiates with the NFL Players Association. He held that position for 3 decades, and he's being replaced by another owner, Michael Bidwell, for the Cardinals.
Wow.
Right.
So kudos to John for knowing that.
Yeah.
And anti-kudos to you, Dadio, for making that sound like big news when it was very small news.
Yeah, but if you look right now, we have probably 3 or 4 people watching because of the way I phrased that. Okay. So with that, I want to bring on the great Joe Burrow. I'm sorry, Joe Goodberry. See what I did there? Yeah, I almost got them again. Yeah. Joe Goodberry, welcome to the show.
Joe Burrow.
Hey, Joe.
Hey.
It's been a few years.
So it has not been a few years.
No, it hasn't been a few years. It's been about 7 months, Joe. I will tell you, it's hard that we only have 2 minutes to talk about how great you are, and 15 of them have already passed. So, first question: how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're great.
We're good. So how is retirement treating you? Are you? I know I saw you went to some beach. I saw that you were just relaxing on the sand with your family. I mean, that is great. And you're
lots of beaches around here, so I'm hitting them up all the time. Okay, it's good. I'm doing what I always do. I still watching the game, still analyzing them. I just don't have to do it. So I kind of sometimes I'm like, I'm not going to do it till Thursday. And as John knows, in the semi-media department of that, you kind of have to watch it right away or quickly, and sometimes you don't want to. So that's where I'm at.
And you're still immersed in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Oh, of course. It's been a good 2021 for them, I think, in the TV realm.
Yeah, I wish the Bengals would do as well as Marvel and Disney. We'd be set.
So that is amazing. If he's in retirement, and he does far more research than me and Hodgie, he actually watches the games.
Well, you can't read. That really hurts your researching skills. I mean.
Yeah. But, okay, so the great Joe Goodberry, I almost said it again, but so if you guys don't know, he was writing for The Athletic. He was putting out 5 podcasts a day, and that podcast, it took off, and it is now the top podcast. But Joe, I don't know if you know, our show has been renamed the #1 Bengals podcast. We only do 1 podcast a week. It gets anywhere between 15 and 25 downloads a week.
Yeah.
And so
most of them from family and friends.
Yeah.
And that's how you know they love us.
And we have multiple devices. We use our own multiple devices and to get to the 20s. But okay, next topic. Joe Burrow is back. Joe. Now the title
Robo QB.
Robo QB. Well, it's interesting because RoboCop actually the trauma, the injuries that he suffered were not as bad as what Joe Burrow went through. Because Joe Burrow, like, you know, those guitars behind Hodgie, if you want to break one of those in half.
How dare you?
Well,
how dare those words leave your lips? Mick Jagger has kissed some of these guitars.
He tore about 8 ligaments in his knee. And then we saw him have that robotic brace on his knee, Mr. Goodberry. And he didn't look comfortable walking and then he only played one snap a year after. He only threw one ball a year after throwing like 40, 50 passes a year. What do you think? Is he actually healthy?
I mean, we all hope so, but there's really no way to know. I bet he probably doesn't even know if he's on. Even if he says he's 95%, 99, 100%, whatever that may be, whatever that arbitrary number is, I'm sure he wants to get hit. And I'm sure we would like to see him get hit. I mean, we don't, but it's going to happen. So I think we kind of are waiting for that. I mean, he's going to get hit in the leg. He's going to run. He's going to get smashed. And I think we're all going to hold our collective breaths until he does and gets up. And we're going to say, okay. And maybe it'll take 15 or 20 or 30 hits before we all feel comfortable. And I don't know what it'll take for him, but I don't know. I wish they would have left him out there a little bit. I wish, because even they said 3 snaps and they're pulling him out. So even if they would have got a first down, they're going to pull him out. That seems like they kind of just put him out there for the fans. And yeah, I guess that worries me a little bit. But what's the worth, right? What's the risk there? Losing an entire season and maybe killing his entire career for a preseason game? All right, fine. Maybe he shouldn't have played at all.
Well, I would say it was for the fans, but then they come out with these tigers. Did you see these plastic tigers, Joe?
I did. They were cool.
So, I mean, when you have that, I don't think you need to put on the show for the fans anymore. Those were incredible. But
it's quite a spectacle. Wait, I want to go back to Dr. Goodberry's points that he made here. Joe, I like you because you call them as you see them. Okay? I want to put a proposal out there for you. It's a little bit crazy. But why do the Bengals need to be playing Joe Burrow for full games in the first half of the season anyways? Long term, you keep your QB. You use your second draft pick to get a better backup quarterback. And you go light on the Burrow, right? Just like light on the Mayo, light on the Burrow. Your thoughts?
Zach Taylor can't afford to do that. I mean,
why?
He would be fired. It would have to be an organizational decision from the top down, and even then, they're not going to win games with Brandon Allen. I mean, it really comes down to you're as good as your quarterback, and we see this throughout the league. And we need Joe Burrow to be good. We need him to be healthy. I have to assume because he's getting almost all of the first-team reps, and they say he's on pace to play week 1, that they feel he's at least healthy enough to play. And if he is, then he's your best quarterback. And year 2 for the quarterback, you should be competing for the playoffs. I mean, we should not be talking – if anyone mentions 5 wins, 6 wins, even 7 wins, just log off right now. Don't even – we should be talking 8, 9, 10, 11 because it's year 2 for your quarterback, and that's the timetable. And if they're behind it, I mean, you look at the history, go back the last 6 drafts. I just did this recently. Look at the quarterbacks that did not hit 500, 8-8 in year 2. The only good one, and I guess we're on a Bengals podcast, we can debate how good he actually is Baker Mayfield. Everyone else, you aren't worth anything, or they were traded or they're released quickly after. And year 3, year 4, they were not franchise quarterbacks. Even guys that Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, guys that weren't ultimately franchise quarterbacks, at least went 9-7 that second year. You have to win. That's the timetable. You should be putting the places around Burrow for the last 2 off seasons.
But
so they should be ready to win.
But are you taking the injury into play there? I mean, these guys you were mentioned, did they suffer as big of an injury as Joe Burrow, any of them?
None of them really did. I mean, RG3 is the only comparable, and we know how that ended up after that. They quickly was replaced by Kirk Cousins. He was never the same guy. I mean, if Burrow's not the same guy, then we've got a bigger issue anyways. Otherwise, it was Deshaun Watson who had an ACL injury to end his year. The next year, they go 11-5. They make the playoffs, and Watson's great.
That's right.
That's what we should be shooting for.
Okay.
You mentioned Baker Mayfield as the outlier, though, but are we that sure that Zach Taylor is that much better of a coach than Freddie Kitchens?
I know. That could be the situation, right? Where year two, we're like, maybe, they only get 6 wins. Zach Taylor's fired, and hope they get their Kevin Stefanski.
Well, I want to talk about Zach.
Let me just stay on this for just 1 second. Okay. Let me go back to the Goodberry on 1 second because I want him to finish his thought a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Let's say we go your way. Let's say Joe Burrow plays the full way. There's still a chance that the knee will act up. Don't you think we need a better backup QB? And we could get one. We could get your Gardner Minshew or whatever that guy's name is, right?
Well, he was just traded for a conditional sixth rounder. I mean, how? Like, why didn't the Bengals, with such a unstable...
Yeah, I don't know why they're not... I don't know why they're so comfortable with Brandon Allen and Kyle Schumer. I saw Schumer play, and I don't get it. I don't get what they have planned with a not well QB. You need something back there.
Are there any backup QBs they should be considering, Joe?
Reed Sinnett.
Nick Foles.
Oh gosh, this is why we invite you on the show.
Is he cut? Was he cut yet or no?
I don't know if he was cut yet, but they were trying to trade him last minute.
Yeah.
And so, that's part of the equation, right? If Burrow is only 85% healthy, that's 85% is still way better than Brandon Allen. But maybe it's not better than a Nick Foles or arguable if Nick Foles is playing well. Yeah. So I could see that point, but because of the situation, you wouldn't bring Nick Foles in right now and start him week 1 on 11 days of practice time. That's not. I don't know. We shouldn't even be entertaining this. It's Joe Burrow.
No, we should be. We should be. And I tell you what, Joe, you have just given Dadio the headline for the article that's going to accompany this podcast, which is Joe Goodberry says Bengals should bring in Nick Foles.
That's right.
Right.
Thank you for that.
No problem.
Okay, so let's move on to new free agents and draft picks. Here comes the fun. Look, the Bengals went out there. They redid their secondary. They went out in the draft, and I want to say they took the best players available, I guess. Look, Jamar Chase, everybody knows he was the best player available. And then you have Carmen Jackson, who they really believed in. And he seems to be growing pretty quickly, So, so what do you think overall of the free agent draft pick combination? How excited are you, Joe?
Mildly to, hopeful, I guess. When you see what the Chargers did on the offensive line in terms of free agency and then attacking it in the draft, I think that'll make you envious because that's what you want. They're like, we got to protect Herbert. We have to do it. And they went out and spent massive money, brought in, I think it was 3 free agents and then first-round pick on a guy. That's a complete overhaul. As we sit here today, we really have, one new starter in Riley Reif on a 1-year deal. Hopefully Jackson Carman in 2 or 3, 4 weeks, whatever it may take, is the right guard. And we were hopeful about that and that progression and how he develops in his rookie year. That would be great. But at the same time, I think this offensive line is going to have issues on the interior. We're talking about Trey Hopkins coming off his 2nd major knee injury, and he had injuries in college too. So you got to wonder how he's going to hold up as he gets to the upper age there. And Quentin Spain hasn't looked right to me. I think he looks a little stiff, a little slow this preseason. Still probably the best left guard they have, but probably because they don't have anybody else. And then Xavier Su'a-Filo, I assume, is going to start at right guard. And that's probably on a short leash until one of these other guys replace him.
Well, we'll get to the O-line, but who excites you from the new
pickups? You want the exciting part, right?
Yeah. Ratings. Remember the ratings. Yeah.
Right. Well, what did they upgrade in terms of free agency? I'm not sure they upgraded at corner from
Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton, come on.
Okay, you're right. I will agree with that. Mike Hilton was an upgrade. I'll take Mike Hilton any day of the week. I'll take Trey Hendrickson any day. I'll take Chidobe Awuzie any day. But it's almost a 1-for-1 at best if those guys pan out. And then
Carl Lawson's out for the season. They saw that coming, obviously. Yeah. Sure, who excited me from the Dolphins game? Who really excited me? What was his name? The receiver was third. It was the third quarter, and he catches this pass. It was a deflected pass, and it was a Tyler. What's his last name? Sort of a T. Tyler. And then it was like he fights for the ball. It's the preseason game. He fights for the ball. John, do you remember who this was?
Trent Taylor.
Oh my gosh, I love that kid. I am going to be watching that kid.
Yeah, he'll probably make the team as the backup slot guy, I'd assume. speaking of Joseph Osai, that would have been the one I was super excited about. Obviously, I'm excited about Jamar Chase. I think that's an upgrade over how bad A.J. Green was last year. Now we got to get Chase on track. But, man, I thought Osai was going to give him that other athletic edge opposite of Trey Hendrickson. And now it quickly turns into a massive hole. As you see, they're adding defensive linemen today in a trade with Billy Price. And because I think they realize that that D-line is weak and potentially the linebackers are weak. So I hope the defense is much better. I don't have a lot of confidence. To me, it's how good is Burrow, how good is Mixon, and how good is this trio of receivers, because that's how far the team's going to go.
I can't help but notice you left out Riley Reef there over Bobby Hart.
No, he said we operated one position, so we added one guy.
O-line is a unit, John. You know this. One player only does so much. If he's not the faulty guy, someone else will be.
Yeah, but you mentioned the Chargers. Can you name 4 of the Chargers starters on offensive line last year?
No. Like in last year? No, it was bad.
Exactly. Like I think the difference between the Bengals and Chargers is bigger than people thought. The Chargers offensive line was so much worse than the Bengals offensive line. They needed to do all this stuff. I'm not saying the Bengals didn't need to invest more in the offensive line, but I think what they have now, that they have 5 guys, I think we can both feel comfortable that pass protection is their strength compared to run blocking.
Let us just go on to the offensive line discussion then.
Yeah, but if we're going on to the offensive line, then let me piggyback on John for a second. And I want to respond to John. John, isn't it then the case that really what Zach Taylor is saying is that we didn't have a talent problem on the O-line. We had a coaching problem on the O-line.
You just looked at the cue card, Hodgie.
It was both. It was.
Yeah.
Both.
But, I mean, look, Joe, I saw the YouTube highlights of the offensive line. I watched the film. I was in the film room, 7 minutes, after each game.
Big fat guys.
Yeah, and let me just say something, okay? I didn't see one bad rep in the pass protection, except that one where they snapped the ball and they weren't ready. But it was like every single time you didn't see someone just burst through there like we used to. The quarterback always has...
It's because they're standing up against the Bengals defenders.
No.
It's going to look different when you go against the Seattle Seahawks.
No, there was like 2.5 seconds. No, the Bucks, the Washingtons, and the other one, the Dolphins. All 3 games, we didn't allow 1 sack. Any of those games. I know that's just one stat, but watching it, I didn't see them fall apart on any pass protecting plays.
They're coached way better. I'm a big fan of Frank Pollard.
It's a big deal.
I hated Jim Turner. So, I mean, like the difference there, that's the Chargers O-line is the Jim Turner. And they just went to at least a guy that can instantly, I think, keep them above water. They're not going to drown out there. Even Billy Price, even guys that played last year, I was going to say even Billy Price and Quentin Spain last year and even Bobby Hart, those guys shouldn't have been as bad as they were at times. There were times where I'm like, what are they doing? And it's really, you heard behind the scenes, it really was what they're asked to do from Jim Turner. And those things should not happen anymore. They should be a better running team.
What was he asking them to do? It wasn't to play football. So I know that there was a scandal with the dolls. He had a doll collection in Miami. I don't know exactly what it was, but what is he getting them to do? What is it? Yeah,
no, he was a bad coach. I don't think he was, doing stuff.
Some things I heard in terms of technique, do this, do that, or I heard in one game in particular, and I didn't follow up if it kept going. But remember I'm retired, but he wasn't even down on the sidelines to help with technique and coaching. He was actually up in the booth, which is weird for an O-line coach. So like there was players looking to be coached, and he wasn't there to do it. Just things I heard from other, people.
Well, I saw Frank Pollock it was family day in the stadium, and he was like yelling and pushing and he was like, do this, do that. He was like very, very hyper. And it was like, everybody was like, wait a second, man. This is like, they came here for the bouncy houses. They didn't come for this, but
it's like Dadio before he's had the Snickers.
Yeah.
Right. He was pushing kids around, right?
Well, it didn't get to that point because the fans, because of the corona, they weren't allowed on the field, but it would, Okay.
Speaking of corona, Dadio, you haven't been vaccinated, man. This Dadio guy, he's driving me crazy. He's lost his sense of smell, and so now he stopped bathing.
Yeah, I don't think you can get it if you can't smell it. But also, I have heard rumors that they're going to give bigger rewards for the vaccine. So I'm waiting to get the best deal because you always, Joe, I don't know if you know, you want to get the best deal. And speaking of good deals, Joe, there is exciting news because our podcast is partnering with playactionpools.com this season to bring interactive fun to the sport we love most. And
swimming.
Hold on. No. It's football.
Pool.
It's football. Yeah.
Oh.
It's like a pool, like you pool your resources together like a pool, like you pick names out of a hat pool.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so you'll be able to get into action with the playactionpools.com football Pick EM challenge, which is open to everyone.
Pick 'em.
Oh, okay. Pick 'em. Yeah.
Pick 'em.
Here's how it works. Sign up for a contest.
Problem.
Believe football Pick 'em at Play Action Pools, and then get your picks in each week. We're going to select the 10 highest profile games of the week between NFL and college football. Whoever gets the most correct each week will win a pair of electric shoes. Or
something is wrong with what you're reading, but I don't know what you're reading wrong. Electric shoes.
Electric sunglasses. I still don't think that's right. Is that
no?
No.
There's no such thing.
And a pair of discounted shoes. No, DC shoes. Yes. So you go to playactionpools.com and sign up for the contest BLEAV football Pick M. And if you plan on hosting,
pick 'em like what you're always doing with your nose. Pick 'em.
They've got Survivor Pick 'em as cool sports book style concept called Build Your Bankroll. Playactionpools.com, your new home for all the office sports pools. Okay, Joe, that's what I was trying to say there. So let us move on to pass rush, please.
It's bad. Well, I said it could potentially be bad, right? Can it only be Trey Hendrickson?
That's my question for you. We saw Darius Hodge. We saw even when after Osai went down,
Hodgie's
the next game,
right there he is.
Yeah, and it was like the next game after Osai went down, they still were getting constant pressure on quarterbacks. What's going on? Does Lou Anarumo actually know what he's doing?
Yes.
They have a new D-line coach. Maybe that helps, right? We talked about Frank
that's right.
making these guys better. I mean, maybe having a new D-line coach that's a veteran that has actually worked with these guys, or has worked with other guys in the NFL. Maybe that will provide some or yield some better results. Yeah, I just think it's not just losing Carl Lawson. I see that, like everyone's always like, well, they lost Carl Lawson, they replaced him with Hendrickson. They also lost Dunlap and Atkins, and I know they weren't as good the last year, but the last 3-4 years they were fine as a whole. And so I think you're still missing a little bit there. I think you want 3 good defensive ends, and I'm not sure they have that. I do like Sam Hubbard. I don't want to gloss over him, but I want him to be the 4th best rusher on that D-line, not the 2nd best. And I think that's indicative of how good they actually are and how deep they are. If one of these ends go down, they're quickly playing Khalid Kareem, who started off really great, and hopefully he's not hurt too bad. We'll see how that shakes out. But DJ Reader is a nose tackle. He can rush the passer as a nose tackle. That's not to be confused with a guy that can rush the passer. That's not going to be confused with a guy that can actually move and push the pocket. He's going to be out there, but at the same time, he's there to eat space and be a big guy. And Larry Ogunjobi's brought in to replace Geno Atkins, and Ogunjobi's been spotty at best in Cleveland. And they get B.J. Hill, which actually he could play, and maybe he's going to help them inside and allow Hubbard to actually rush from the edge instead of interior. I think they're going to have to scheme up pressure. Not to be forgotten, Mike Hilton is a tremendous blitzer. And anytime you're scheming or adding guys to the pass rush, that means there's one less guy in coverage typically. So they're going to have to be able to hold it up on the back end. And I'm not feeling great about the corners. It sounds like they've played well, but I don't think any of these guys are someone that can go up one-on-one and man coverage any type of athletic receiver with good ball skills. I think it's an odd mix. I still think they've got some major holes and depth issues on this team.
Yeah. Well, I see what you're saying. So you're saying don't get so excited about the, about the preseason.
I think they played well in preseason. I just don't know what it's worth.
Well, hold on. I think if I may, I'm going to try to explain. I think what Joe is trying to say. Like back in the day, back in like the Mike Zimmer days, even the Paul Gunther days to an extent, you had prime Geno, you had prime Dunlap, you even had Michael Johnson for a couple of years. You had multiple guys that you would feel confident in winning one-on-one matchups in the pass rush. You would have a 3rd and 7, and you would feel confident that Geno would be bull rushing the pocket, or Dunlap would be bending around the edge, be put in the right position. You would have confidence in some of these guys playing at the height of their games to win their matchups and get to the quarterback. You have talent now on the defense line. You have more depth than last year, but it is an unknown that you don't know if these guys in Hendrickson, Hubbard, Ogunjobi, even Reader to an extent, can win those same one-on-one matchups that those guys in the past did. So while there's talent, while there's depth, there's not that upper echelon, that elite talent that you used to have. And even Carl Lawson to that extent. Carl Lawson won so many one-on-ones last year, but because no one else could finish, no one else could win their one-on-ones, there would be a lack of quarterback production. There was the perception that Lawson was overrated. So I think I understand what Joe is coming from there.
I do too, but there's one thing you guys aren't considering. We never had linebackers other than perfects before this year. And this year we could have some athletic linebackers. It's a different kind of defense. You don't have we used to invest in the defensive line, and we didn't have any great corners after Leon Hall got, old, I guess you could say. Right? I mean, Adam Jones had a couple of good years. But, I mean, it was really our defensive line was a strength. Now we have all these athletes, and the linebackers.
The key is
and we have the playmaking safeties. I mean, yeah, we had Reggie Nelson, but, I mean, nothing like Jesse Bates.
No.
And no one as intimidating as Von Bell. So I think it's a different kind of defense. I think it's a kind of bend but don't break, maybe make some big plays here and there. Yes. But it's not the kind of defense that's going to be like second in points allowed per year the way we used to have.
Well, let me just add to that real quickly that as a viewer, last year I ended up being far more disappointed with the offense in many of these games than with the defense. I was always pleasantly surprised.
Okay.
Defense doesn't matter that much.
Exactly.
Let us move to offense
then. Zone. Sorry.
Let us move. Yeah, I'm sorry. We're trying to wrap up, Joe. I'm sorry. We got... we're basically by the minute.
Dadio and I are going extinct. When you get to be our age, you'll know.
Zach to the future. Offensive creativity. So, does he have it? Does he actually offer anything, Zach Taylor? Have you seen anything, Joe, to make you think, wow, this guy has some schemes, has some ideas that are actually going to get people open? It's not just going to be Joe Burrow, the Joe Burrow show. Have you seen anything? Preseason, previous 2 seasons?
No, I mean, overall, I would say no. But I would rephrase what I have seen that gets me excited a little bit is their willingness to adapt other offenses and steal things. The cliche is a copycat league, but it's true. And if they're willing to steal that stuff, I'll see remember last year or the year before, it might have been the Rams score a touchdown in a certain way. Next thing you know, I'll watch the Bengals run the same play 2 weeks later. Chiefs score one a certain way. The Bengals run the same play 3 weeks later. Didn't work because they got blown up on the offensive line, but those situations did happen a bunch. And I'm like, okay, they absorbed the LSU offense. They went 5 wide. They did all that stuff. Great. It's kind of hard to replicate it exactly unless it's your like foundational offense or your designs. I do think they're willing to go in the right direction, which is throw the ball. They won't get sucked into running it when it's not necessary or when it's not working. And I think that's how you win in this league. Like I said, defense doesn't matter as much. I think they at least understand what works on offense in the league. I just don't know if they can replicate it to the expertise level of it's hard to compare to like an Andy Reid offense because they do stuff in preseason and I'm like, man, their playbook is so deep that they can run this stuff in preseason that looks crazy to us. But really, it's probably back page 45 for them in their offensive design. The Bengals are running generic stuff in preseason, and I wonder if that's not too far from the front page.
Well, I think it's Andy Reid, from what I've read. He copies not just from the league, but even from like high schoolers. I think it's like he takes from everywhere. And they say any play he's ever come across or anybody as a staff, they just throw it in there. It's like a...
Let me counterpoint Dr. Goodberry here and see what you think about this. Because I do think Zach is special. And I'll tell you two ways that I've seen it. Number one, look at the mojo on the field. Look at the way the players interact with each other, and you realize that there's a vibe, there's a positivity there, that he's been able to bring a lot of different kinds of people together, and they have a winning attitude and a kind of positivity despite their losing record. That's pretty incredible. They don't have that losing mentality. Number two, we've seen Zach make certain decisions that show that this man is really interested in winning. Now, for example, he's close to Jim Turner, but when the time comes, he gets rid of him. Marvin Lewis wouldn't have done that. He uses a pretty decent pick to get a kicker, which I think was a brilliant move because you have the star kicker.
Marvin Lewis did both those things.
Marvin Lewis
he drafted a kicker, and then we cut him before we started the season, and he fired Terrell Austin like halfway through his first season.
Yeah, but they weren't tight, you know.
He fired fired Zampese like halfway through his first season, I think.
Jim Turner's like his father-in-law or something.
Zach, let's be honest. Yeah, Zach hasn't shown us anything yet, but this is his chance. Like Joe's saying,
I want to hear Joe Goodberry.
Joe already said his opinion.
No, but my counterpoint. He was agreeing with me. I saw him nodding.
He was nodding.
No, I think your point on for them being as bad as they are. I mean, look at the record, and most organizations don't keep a guy after 2 seasons, but they've dealt with benching Andy Dalton and trying to move on from that. They dealt with Joe Burrow's injury, and you're right. The energy did stay up. They did win games at the end of the year in both years, or at least go toe to toe with some good teams and teams that were going to the playoffs. I think there is some value in that. I just don't know if it's more valuable than actually winning, right?
Well, I think they've sent a message. It's our guys. We want our guys in here. And I think that's what you do when you have a new regime take over. No, hold on.
Oh, no.
You have to eliminate all of the other, people who had loyalties to the previous regime. No. Otherwise, you cannot consolidate leadership.
This is directly from Mussolini's memoirs. That's what he's quoting is Mussolini's memoirs. I know because he has it by his bedside. He reads it. This man is a fascist.
It gives me peace. And it helps me fall asleep. But I want to move on to season predictions.
You are a super spreader.
Joe has got to go. He's never going to come back, guys. If we keep taking his time. Is it the year of the cat? Are the Bengals going to actually do anything? Win a playoff game? Anything, Joe? You said they need to win 10 games. Are they going to?
Yeah, I think they are. I believe in Joe Burrow. Yeah. So I think Burrow will be good this year. I think he'll be great this year, actually. It may be rusty the first few weeks, but I think after that, I think the schedule's easy enough in the first few weeks. They got a little of a gift there from the NFL scheduler, whoever that may be. And if they can come out of this, even 2-2, and Burrow's finally hitting his stride, Jamar Chase is hitting his stride, I do think they can. I think this is an offense that can put up 30 points a game. When you can do that, you can hang with anyone, and just got to hope the defense is opportunistic enough to maybe steal a couple games, and that Taylor doesn't. The rash of injuries. If that doesn't happen, we always say this every year. If they can stay healthy, if they just stay healthy, well, they never do. So you got to overcome that stuff. Backups are going to have to play. Players are going to have to develop. They're going to have to look like a different team than they have, and Burrow's going to have to be great, and I think he will be.
I'll just say this.
You see how this is what you call a callback in comedy. You see how he brought it back to Nick Foles right at the end of the show.
I would just say this, Mr. Goodberry. I am encouraged. Like I said, it doesn't matter who was there on the offensive line. Do you remember preseason last year and the year before? We were like, oh no, offensive line is a mess. So I know it's the preseason, but now it's just like a mentality. They are cohesive for the first time in years, and it's because they don't hate their coach. They don't hate their offensive line coach. Right. I'm serious. And,
no, you are.
Yeah, and the defense.
And they have the statues too.
I mean, and the pass rush, I don't know what it is, but the defense, the pass rush, it was non-existent last year. And it doesn't matter who's there. We're always kind of, I don't know if Lou is actually, So I'm encouraged by the fact that we seem to have a system in place.
Yes.
Where players are going to contribute no matter who's in there. That is what is encouraged. We're not relying on Geno Atkins as our pass rush. We're not relying on, you know what I mean? On who is it that we used to have? We used to have like after in 2016, it was like we had Whitworth and we had Zeitler and nothing else for our offensive line. Now it's like not just about one or two players on the offensive line. So, okay, John, I think we got your season predictions before. I don't know if we ever actually got your number though. What is the number for the Bengals?
I'll go 8-9. I'll go 8-9.
Okay, 8-9. All right. And
John doesn't like Joe Burrow.
Of course not.
That is a headline.
He's no Justin Fields.
Cincy Jungle editor hates.
He's no Reed Senate.
That is a headline. Yeah.
If we get Nick Foles, I'm predicting an all-win season, no losses.
Well, I say
even if he's just backup, because he brings Nick energy.
Big Nick energy.
Big Nick energy.
All right. Well, look, you can find Mr. Goodberry on Twitter.
Doctor.
You make sure you got the right one. It's the one with the blue check mark and 40,000 followers. If there's other Joe Goodberrys out there. So just look up Joe Goodberry, follow him, and pester him into tweeting more. And no, I'm just joking. Joe, enjoy the retirement, Joe. We're so happy for you. And even in retirement, he still chimes in with the best, opinions. He just rolls out of bed.
The zingers, really.
Yeah. And it's great. And no one can do anything. I mean, I know that they have a team of lawyers and propagandists who are trying to counter every Joe Goodberry tweet. But that's just the way these things work.
The deep Bengals state? What are you, I mean, like, what are you referring to here?
And they can't win. He's a one-man nation, really. So, so make sure you follow Joe and John. John has a lot of stuff to tweet too.
Okay, and then?
And follow me. Yeah, follow me. I have a Twitter.
Okay.
And follow, the show. Make sure you subscribe to the show.
There's one YouTube. Person you're forgetting here.
Courtney. I think Courtney has a Twitter. So our producer, you definitely want to follow Brinks and Believe. All of these things, And make sure you subscribe.
Right.
Yeah. And you go leave a 5-star review on iTunes for the #1 Bengals podcast. We will see you next time. So long, Sweetie. Bye.
Super spreader.